Hello and welcome back to Reset. I have a guest with me today who you might be familiar with from a previous episode. I've got Psychologist Anna here with me today, and we're going to be unpacking all things parental guilt. And I invite you to stick around, even if you're not a parent, because personally, I know when my friends started having babies, I had zero clue what they were going through. I like to think that I kind of understood their thought process and how they might be feeling, what they might need at the time. But then when they had these babies, I was kind of dumbfounded of how to show up. And then when their lifestyle started to change a little bit, I also wasn't sure, had I lost my friend? Will I ever get my friend back again? How do I support them, but also encourage them to find themselves? All the things. So we are going to dive deep into that today. And I think this conversation is one that we all need to hear. Anna, welcome back to the studio.
Thank you, Ash. I'm so excited to be back again.
Your episode last time that we did, and I'm going to link it in the show notes for people, it was all around postnatal depression and surviving those sort of early days of motherhood. It resonated so deeply with so many people.
I'm so glad. It was amazing to do and to have that reflection myself, because I think so often we don't look back on those times, and the ability to look back and have that compassion to see that journey, I loved it.
Yeah. And I think as someone who's going to be a mom soon myself, it was really eye-opening. And then I know that a lot of friends who have experienced postnatal depression listen to that episode and they're like, thank you. I wish I had it prior. I'm glad I have it now. And it just really helps to kind of unfortunately normalize it, I think, because so many people go through it, but it just made them feel very seen and very heard. So thank you.
And that's the goal. I hope this does the same.
Yeah. I feel like this is almost part 2 of that.
Well, so we've got so many parts to go into.
We have so many parts. This is going to be a never-ending series, which is great. I love having you here. But let's get started. So what is parental guilt?
So parental guilt, look, I think it's a term we throw around a lot. For a lot of people, it's this sinking, nagging, gnawing feeling. It can be physical, it can be cognitive, it can be both, that shows up and tells us that we're failing. We're not doing enough. We should be doing more. We're letting everyone down, okay? It is so common with being a parent because of so many things, and I'll talk about them in a moment, but this idea that it's like we're trying to achieve so much and we just can't. A lot of parental guilt, I guess, can come up with things like juggling work with life. So are we staying at home? Are we going to work? How do we juggle it all? It can show up with trying to take time for ourselves. Stepping away from our children can be really, really challenging. A big one is discipline. How we want to discipline, and how that actually translates can cause a lot of guilt. One that I really struggle with, which I didn't expect, was feeding.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure I will talk to you more about that, but this idea of I should be feeding my children this, I should be making sure that they're having X, Y, Z. Try telling that to a toddler, but it's still this expectation that I am failing if I somehow cannot do that. We see guilt around things like screen time, around play. It seeps into so many areas of our life and of our parenting journey. It comes from, again, which I think is really important, it comes from a little array of things. And I think the most important thing to start on there is it comes from love. It comes from wanting to be a good parent, of wanting to provide the best for your child. I think in that as well, it often comes from wanting to sort of unlearn, I guess is the word, of some of the things that maybe you went through and do it differently, okay? So that is the core of it. But then the other parts that come into it is society, this expectation to be perfect, to have the answers. That feeds so much into our guilt. And then, of course, comparison. Okay, so immediately I think of social media, but just of other mothers. We see people that appear to have it all together and we start comparing ourselves. So it's so multifaceted, not only where it comes from, but how it shows up.
Oof, there is so much to unpack in this. Okay.
I warned you.
I'm keen. Let's dive in. Does it impact males and females in the same way?
Not in the same way. Okay, so it does impact males and females. I think this is I really love this question. It's really interesting. So we often talk about mum guilt so much. And the reality here, I think, is that mothers often, not always, handle more of the emotional, the mental load of parenting. So it's showing up in that area. That doesn't mean that dads, fathers don't experience it. And I do want to touch on that. But even the fact that we don't have a term as dad guilt says a lot. For mums, we're looking at it's about 70% of us that experience mum guilt at least weekly. That's from research in 2022, I want to say. So 3 years ago, I also would hazard a guess, and I'm sure you'd agree, it's probably pretty underrated. Sometimes we don't even acknowledge that we're experiencing this. But if we're going on that, 70% of women at least once a week are feeling like this, okay? It's caught up in this idea, particularly for women, that we know what we're doing. You're a natural mother. You've got the instincts. Mum knows best. And if we don't, then it's like, oh God, don't say that. I'm meant to have these answers. So that really comes up. The same is you grew this baby, potentially you might have had struggles to get this baby. Don't complain. Don't complain about it. You should know what you're doing. When we hear the shoulds, it's usually pretty fast track to guilt. So that definitely comes up. Let me go back to your question. Sorry, Ash, I'm going to go on tangents here, so bring me back.
We're here for it. We're all here for it, Anna.
Is this idea around dads? So yeah, I think it's definitely less researched and therefore we get less prevalence. It does feel like it's less intense for dads. Okay, there's something innately there that it's as mothers, we take on this sort of responsibility. Exactly like I said, I think society has a large sort of part to play there. What we know with dads is, I guess, there's a lot of guilt, again, around this struggle of work and missing out. For one, I guess one of the ways I can explain this, I want to share about my partner. He runs his own business. He's a builder. He works massive hours. He then comes home and we've got about an hour usually when he gets home for us to do the bed routine, the bedtime routine, and spending time with the kids, showing up, being fun, doing all of that. And I know he has got so much work to do in quoting, and I don't even know what he does, but all of that sort of stuff. You can see that he's pulled in so many directions. If he prioritizes work, he's going to miss out on this. But if he's with the kids, he's probably thinking and feeling guilty about not being there. So where is he anyway? And I think that's a silent struggle that a lot of dads might experience, not want to speak up because they also know that mum is often handling so much. How can I complain about this when she's been home with the kids all day or when I can see she's barely hanging on? I think it's less culturally accepted. So yeah, we definitely still see it. I think it's an area that needs to be given space, but it's different.
Yeah, I actually ran into a friend on the way here and he has 2 kids. He has his own business and life is pretty hectic. And we were just briefly catching up about what we were going to be discussing today. And I thought, oh, good chance for me to do a little bit of consumer research. And he was saying that for him and a lot of male friends of his, there is this pressure to financially provide for the family. And they sort of start to feel that weight sitting on them from before baby even arrives.
Yes.
And it's the pressure of we need the bigger house, the bigger car, the best schooling, the best this. And he said he's constantly torn between okay, well, do I go all in on work to be able to provide that? But then my kids are missing out on my time and my love and my attention and what I have left, similar to what your partner has. What time and energy I have left to give when I get home is really limited. And he was kind of saying that in his mind, there is no such thing as balance if he wants to be quote unquote successful.
Yeah.
And so he kind of looks at it and he's like, it's not right, but it's how I'm working right now. And he's like, I work in these sprints. And he's like, I'm all in with work right now. And then I can see fires I need to put out on the side. And then so, in a few weeks, I will be all in on my dad life and my parenting responsibilities, put those fires out. But then while I'm there, my work will be suffering. And so I know that financial stress is huge for men across the board, whether they have kids or not. And it's the number one leading cause of divorce at the moment. And so layer kids into a relationship and this parental guilt, whether it's mom, dad, whoever's the primary caregiver, whoever's the primary earner at the time, like so layered and so complex.
It is. It's so complex. And I love that idea of like, it's putting out spot fires. I guess there's that part of me that it's like we can't do it all. We try and do it all. And exactly that. It's like we're over here, but then we're missing this. And how that eats us up, I think is huge. You've also got this idea with financial part in there, I guess, Ash, is, look, and every family I think is different, but this pressure on often dads to go, okay, well, I don't want my partner to have to rush back to work. So I want to take that load. The other thing, and I just want to mention this sort of lightly, but I think it's really familiar and I think you'll resonate with this so personally. I feel like dads, when we're in pregnancy, mums are trying to prepare, we're trying to emotionally do all of this or whatnot. Sometimes we're trying not to think about it. Dads seem to, anecdotally, decide to do renos. It's like this preparation that comes in that it's like, I've got to do something. I need to do something. And I think that comes in this helplessness as well, which can often have this guilt, like, oh, mum's going through so much. I don't know what to do. I need to do something.
Yeah.
So we often see that. And I think that also leads another little comment of how men or how fathers can often feel this guilt is the idea that mums or the primary caregiver there, I think that's an important catch, they might know how to do something better or appear to. My child's crying. Ash just knows how to soothe them. So I'll just let that happen because it makes me sort of feel incompetent but also guilty because I don't know what to do here. So that's a really common thing as well of just being like, oh, I don't know, so I sort of step back. Not in a way of trying to weaponize that incompetence, but more in a guilty, like I should know what to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool.
Definitely. And I've heard a few families reflect on that and say, I should have, again, this word should, I should have shown up more when my baby was young because then I wouldn't have been scared to do these things. But equally, I guess I see it happen where one parent is the primary caregiver, does happen to have slightly more experience then at doing all of these things.
You do something every day, you're going to get better at it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
It's so hard.
Is guilt ever a helpful emotion? I know you said before that it can come from a place of love, but is it ever helpful or is it just a hindrance?
Is it just bad? No, it is. Look, all emotions, they're just emotions. They're trying to communicate something with us. Guilt is this moral emotion. It's trying to say, hey, something in your actions here, it doesn't align with your values, with your morals. It's a message, okay? So, for instance, let's say you come home, story of my life. If you come home from a big day at work, you've picked the kids up, they're grizzling, you're trying to do all of the bedtime routine or whatnot, and you just snap, okay? You just snap at them and it's like, guilt comes up. Guilt is giving us this message that says, hey, that's not how you want to parent. That's not what you want to show up as. It's giving us an opportunity to reflect and to realign. So it's about, if we can, stepping back and being like, all right, what happened there? What happened? What went wrong? Okay, I was rushing. I was doing this. I wasn't regulated. It gives us an opportunity to make change for next time. Amazing. So good. Guilt doesn't usually just happen in silo. What follows guilt so closely is shame. Okay? So this idea, guilt comes in and says, look, I didn't parent how I wanted to then. I don't want to yell at my children, and I did. Let's look at that. Shame comes in and says, you yelled at your children, you're a bad mother. You can't do this, you should know better, this sort of idea. Guilt looks at the behavior at the moment. Shame attacks your identity. Okay, so it's a really distinct difference, but they go so quickly together, and it's about trying to separate that.
And I'm sure easier said than done, especially from here on our comfy podcast couch. But when you're in the moment, it feels almost instantaneously. Yeah. And I think it's a lot of, I don't want to
discount the work that can go into this. This is something that as a mum, very like honest self-disclosure, I'm working at a lot in my own therapy because of, we're our own childhoods, our own things that shape, which again, I'm sure we will definitely unpack. These things can be there and so ingrained. So even though I know it, and I remember saying this to you last time, even though I know it, even though I know better, it feels like it happens so quickly. The shame spiral, the shame feeling makes us want to hide away. Guilt's wanting us to approach, to make repair, to make it better. Shame makes us want to hide. And that's what happens. There's a big difference in then how we show up.
Yeah, so interesting. And I feel like all of us go into motherhood, career, any life endeavor thinking that I want to do better because I have these new tools, these insights, I've been to therapy, or I've got, this understanding of moving forward and doing better than what has happened in my past. But things like social media, I think, can inspire, they can educate, but it can also probably make us feel like we're drowning with information of, again, that word should, of everything we should be doing, and not only bombarded with information, but conflicting information.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think the role of social media is on new mums or parents in general, and guilt, and can it ever be a helpful resource?
Look, I think it can, and I think you put it in there beautifully. It can give us all of this information, but it can give us all of this information. It's this double-edged sword. I think social media can be incredible in giving us a sense of connection. We can see someone else struggling and we can go, okay, cool, I really resonate with that, or maybe I'll try that. Beautiful. For me, I think I have got twins, and I didn't have many people around me that had twins. So I was looking for that sort of connection, or just someone else to be like, oh, okay, cool, that person's also juggling too.
Yeah.
So I think there's a beautiful sense of connection in that. However, most of us logically know this. We are seeing a highlight reel. Mm-hmm. We are seeing a carefully curated photo, reel, TikTok, whatever it is. Even if it's designed to be real, a day in the life, it isn't. You also don't...
The amount of mums I see that film themselves waking up in the middle of the night to feed their kids, and I'm like, hang on a second, you set that camera up, you got back into bed, you then got up, and I'm like, I think the idea of getting up multiple times a night is exhausting in itself, let alone the theatrics of it. I'm like, let's just think about how you actually film these day in the life.
It absolutely blows my mind, Ashley. I remember waking up in the middle of the night and I would be feeding a baby, and I had twins. So luckily I also had company. Mind you, we weren't talking because it was just like this. And I would fall asleep, and I think a lot of parents can resonate with this. You'd wake up in a shock of being like, do I still have the baby, or have I put them back in the cot? Usually they're back in there, but you don't even know where you are.
Yeah.
Let alone, setting up a tripod. It is just absurd. So, I mean, hats off to them in one sense, but let's just make it not lower the bar, like just a realistic bar. This is not happening. It is, it is a highlight reel. Again, even if it's saying, oh, I'm experiencing guilt or I'm doing this, we're still not hearing the inner thoughts of someone. We're still not having that shared. So I think that that's a really important thing. I think there's a comparison that just happens. You only have to look in the comment section of any TikTok or Instagram to see it. You go in there and a new mum has been having trouble with, say, her baby sleeping. And so she's like, oh, cool, last night I put them in a swaddle with their arms out. The comment, don't do that. That doesn't work. It's not safe. It's this. Have you tried this? Have you done this? I know you don't want responses, and it's just like your head will explode. Your head will explode with so much information. I think, it's just, it is a beautiful place, but it's a really scary place. One thing I think I wanted to share with you as well, when I was prepping for this podcast, I went on to TikTok, any excuse really, and I looked up mum guilt, and I was met with some beautiful, really nice, honest sort of examples of it, and that was lovely. I was then really shocked. I came across this TikTok of quite a well-known author in the sort of wellness space speaking about mum guilt. And it was this sentiment that if you experience mum guilt, just stop. Just don't. It's not good for you. Second to that, your children will be miserable and they will suffer if you are experiencing that. And I was a bit like, oh, okay.
Now I feel guilty for feeling guilty.
I went to the comments and that is exactly what was written there. To me, this is the beautiful part of social media. It's the epitome. You can't get it right. You now feel guilty for feeling guilty. You feel guilty for not feeling guilty. It's just everywhere. So I think it's like use social media, but you need limits. And limits are hard as a mother who is feeling like they're drowning and using it as an escape and connection. You can't any longer curate your feeds. The algorithm is feeding you. So set limits. If you find you're scrolling at night while you're feeding, maybe a book, maybe a TV show. What else can you do so you're not flooded? The best thing here is to check in how you feel after you've consumed it.
That's a really good flag. And I spoke to a friend who has a new baby recently, and she said she found herself in that sort of spiral, and she had to just unfollow a whole heap of accounts, which I was proud of her for putting up that kind of boundary and having that self-awareness. But again, easier said than done.
Yeah. And I think, again, social media is now designed that it's like, it doesn't matter if we don't follow, TikTok's going to give it to us.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to have that awareness about it either pre or when you're in a state, like it's hard to have that when you're sleep deprived.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you think it's so hard for mothers in particular to take some time away from their kids and have solo time?
Because I think it's ingrained. To be a good mother means to be selfless, self-sacrificing.
And let's put good in inverted commas.
Oh, please, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, good call.
Yeah.
It is. It is this idea from society that it's like we need to be self-sacrificing, we need to be available all the time. We are the one that has the answers. It means that to step away takes also so much preparation, and it's looked at like it's a treat. What a treat. You've got an hour to yourself. How great is that? To me, it shouldn't be like that. To most people, it shouldn't be like that. It should be a non-negotiable thing. It's often, again, I hear this idea that it takes more work to leave. So, yep, cool, I'm going to go and meet Ash for lunch, but now I've got to do X, Y, Z to make sure that my baby or my child is looked after right, whatnot. Again, society, it feels selfish. It doesn't feel worth it if it takes that much mental load. So I think it's wrapped up in so many things, but it really comes to this core that it's like we should always be available.
If someone's listening and they're like, this feels like a friend of mine, or this feels like my partner, or it feels like myself, what are some things they can do to sort of make that possible, like that solo time possible? Is there anything we can do to call on our village or our support network?
I think one of the things is, and I found this really useful, is actually voicing it. I feel really guilty, or even if you're not sure if it's guilt, I feel really uncomfortable about leaving. Understanding what it is, and I think this is a really important differentiation, is it guilt, is it grief? Because it's also, let's just acknowledge, it might be that you feel guilty for leaving your child, whatever that's sort of wrapped up in, or you may not have done it before. It might be really hard. You might not necessarily want to. They're two different things. Being able to voice it and to talk about it, I think, is so important. Having someone that you care for, you trust, I guess, to look after your child is really important. Again, it's like starting slow. Don't expect yourself to be able to go out there for a day and be like, see, it's done. It's like start slow, start small. The other thing here, Ash, is so important. This idea is like, take time for yourself. You'll come back recharged. You don't always come back recharged. Then don't cue the guilt that you should have. You may just come back. It might be better, it might be the same. That's okay. It's still a learning curve. It doesn't mean don't do it again. But it's like lowering the expectations, verbalizing what's going on for you so that one, either you can challenge it or someone else can challenge it and support it for you.
a certain personality type's more prone to this. I'm just thinking of a whole host of people and myself, and I feel like we all want to see, do, experience everything the world has to offer, and we want to do it at a really high level. Is that kind of a personality trait that then once you become a mother just like magnifies this guilt of, oh my God, I'm now sacrificing aspects of my career, my health, my relationship, and I'm also not being a good mom? Like, talk to me about who we should be looking out for most.
Please no. Yeah. So definitely, look, I think, and it's probably going to unfortunately be a lot of the listeners, it's those of us who are high achieving. Those of us who are more of that sort of perfectionistic or aiming for that, we're going to struggle with the concept of good enough. It doesn't feel natural. I don't know about you, but most things in my life, and it feels funny even saying this, but I will say it, is most things in my life I have been able to set a goal, to work hard and achieve it. I've been able to get good at it. Or if I don't, I'm thinking of surfing here, which I failed miserably at, I stopped doing it.
Yeah.
I didn't have to keep going. So it feels really uncomfortable for me when I'm not just naturally good at it. So yeah, we've definitely got that sort of idea of like more of our high achieving people. We have got, unfortunately as well, and I'm resonating with this, people pleasers. Those of us that struggle with boundaries. It's not always this idea of like we struggle saying no. Sometimes we want to say yes to everything. We actually don't know where our limits are. So that's a big thing as well. Again, with people pleasing here or boundary setting, we're going to have to say no to our children, or we're going to have to sometimes, this is a big one that comes up, drop them off to daycare and they're going to be screaming and crying and we're still going to have to go. That is going to tug on everything. Again, with that, people-pleasing, boundaries, also people that are sensitive or feel things deeply. That's a big one. There's other things like our different mental health struggles. We've got depression, anxiety, OCD, ADHD, all of these sort of things that come in that mean that it can be that bit trickier. There might be struggles with organization, with planning, there might be rigidity, or more of like a proneness to, I guess, that like negative self-talk. This is not to be alarmed, okay? So it's not that it's like, cool, if you've got these things, just do not procreate. It's like, absolutely not. These are strengths. These are beautiful things. You want to do it right, or you're more inclined to do this in a certain way. We need to be aware about it to be able to then meet it with compassion, with kindness, and to implement this stuff. The other thing I think is really important here, Ash, is something I touched on before, is it's challenging for those of us who maybe have been raised or experienced different things in our childhood. Maybe that's not always traumas, although sometimes it is. We may be trying to unlearn or to change patterns, okay? We might have been brought up in a childhood, in a family home, for instance, that didn't talk about emotions, and so it wasn't safe to. So we're trying to challenge that. We're trying to learn it at the same time as we're trying to teach it. These are really hard things. And I think it's more about, for me, if this resonates with anyone that's listening, it's going, hey, you might just need a little bit more support. That might be therapy. It might be looking into, self-help, self-development. It also might just be a little bit more self-compassion, that it's like, gosh, this is really hard because of this.
Yeah. What advice do you have to people listening that are like, okay, I feel like you're talking to me when it's the high achieving perfectionist, set a goal, usually smash it, parenting is not so black and white, and just kind of adjusting to having that it's enough is okay. I think one of my friends said rough, good enough, and it's like stuck in my head. But that's an adjustment, and that is going to feel uncomfortable for a lot of people. How do we get used to that?
I actually love that. That needs to be like the name of the podcast app. So there's a couple of things here, and the good enough is a big thing that I want to talk to you about. First of all, I think when it's coming up, and this feeling, we need to also tune into how guilt shows up for us. It'll show up differently for me, for you, for anyone else. For me, I feel this sort of sinking tightness feeling, and I need to start to go, that's guilt. There it is. if I can name it, we talk about this concept of naming it to tame it. That's so important. You can go, that's guilt. That's, I know that comes from this place of TikTok, the bento box lunches. I should be doing that. And actually, I packed baked beans today. I'll give you that one. It's like, it's that, that's the comparison.
Yeah.
Or it might be your own inner critic, your own expectations here based on whatever. I like to do this with a lot of things where it's like, let's actually call it something. So it's like, there's my narky mum voice, my narky mum guilt, sorry. Mm-hmm. It allows us to diffuse from it. It's not you, it's guilt, okay? So that's a big key concept here. The other thing we can do here is then come back to your values. I'm going to use, hopefully this works, this idea that this morning I packed baked beans because I didn't have anything else ready. I was worried that I didn't have enough food for them, blah, 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 juggling. You can hear me trying to explain it.
Yeah.
Anyway, the kids went with baked beans. The guilt came up. Oh gosh, that's not what I should have done. I should have had vegetables. I should have had this. I should have been more prepared. A little bit of shame, but let's stick with the guilt. Coming back to my values, yes, it's important for me to feed my kids good food and have nutrition, but it's also important for me here, and it's not a value around parenting, but to be regulated and to show up for Ash and to show up for my work and whatever it is. I can't have it all. So right now that value has to trump it. Does that make sense? We then need to go to the next sort of part of this. What did you say? Rough, good enough?
Yeah.
Is this concept of the good enough parent. So your friend is spot on with this. This is a term, good enough parenting. It's termed by this man, Daniel Whittaker. I'm going to check this so I don't butcher it. Winnicott. He is, from memory, a pediatrician, and he looks at the good enough parenting. It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up, okay? We miss attunement, making mistakes, snapping at children, whatever it is, it's actually normal. It's common. We don't want to really encourage it, but it's a part of it. That also helps children. It helps children to understand frustration. It helps children to learn repair. So the part of the good enough parenting that we need to acknowledge here is the repair. So with the good enough parenting, we're looking at this concept, of course, you don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistently responsive. You need to be attuned enough. Enough is the key here, Ash. We don't always have to get it right. Attuned enough to your child, to their core emotional and physical needs, okay? So it's about being able to respond to your child's needs, to repair when we make mistake. So again, if we come back to this idea, the baked beans doesn't really work here, but say I yell at my child and it's like, oh God, that's not quite right. It's not going to be incredibly damaging for my child to be having a moment of where I've lost my cool. If I'm able to attune to them, hey, that wasn't okay. Mummy got frustrated then and I yelled. I can see that frustrated you or scared you or whatever happened for you. Mummy's really sorry. I needed to take a breath and I'm here. Do you want a hug? Whatever it is. It's about then meeting them at that emotion and creating that space.
That's really powerful.
It is. It's also really hard to remember in the moment. So I think it's something we need to come back to, and that's why those steps are important. If we can come back to this idea of sometimes it needs to be good enough, we're allowed to then, or we allow ourselves to have more compassion. Okay. So it's we're not aiming for perfect here. We're aiming for attunement. I think if anyone's listening and they're like, cool, this sounds good, this sounds like something that would resonate with me, I urge you, go and look it up more, read about it, get into it, because it's a concept for me. I may not articulate it the best, but it sticks in my head so much that it's not about these little things that might slip up. It's the big moments, and it's about coming back and making repair.
What advice do you have to parents around the actual benefits of spending time away from their kids? Because I think there's a lot of, again, guilt and pressure put on to be there for your kids, to show up for your kids, to be there for every moment. But surely there's a flip side as well.
There's got to be.
There's got to be, right?
There's got to be.
Everything, there's yin and yang. What do we?
And the funny thing with that is for everything there's yin and yang, and yet for parenting we don't see it. You go to work, most of the time you'll have a day off, you'll have a weekend. Even during the year, you'll have a holiday, we hope. You go to the gym, you have a rest day. These are just normal parts. No one goes like, oh, it's ridiculous, you're having your Saturday off. That's so bad. It's expected. And yet with parenting, it's not. So one, it's incredibly beneficial for us as parents to have our own time to regulate, to breathe, to have an identity outside of that. It is such a, look, we have, for mothers, we have this time when we're pregnant where we're trying to adapt to it, but still it's such a shift of identity that we're thrown into. And I know we touched on this last time about how long it can take for us to feel like ourselves again. I don't actually believe we feel like ourselves again. We're this new, improved, different, whatever it is, version of us. We need the space to be able to find that. Okay, so there's that concept with it. The other part here is the benefit for our children. Our children learn to become securely attached, okay? It's about the fact that we are teaching them that mum or dad or whoever it is goes and we come back. And that's so incredibly important. It shows that it's not about this constant proximity, that I'm always there for you. Again, it's talking about this quality. When I am here, this is how I'm showing up. Children weren't meant to be raised in isolation. We had our villages. I also get that this is such a privilege now, but I think it's so important that we do call on other people, whether that's family, friends, daycare, teachers, whatever it is. It teaches our children as well about this, creating this emotional safety. For me, this is something that's hard because I do have this belief that I should have it all. I should have all the answers. I should be able to do that. That's particularly how my mum guilt shows up, is this idea is that I shouldn't have to ask for help. So then when I do call on other people, it feels really uncomfortable. I acknowledge that. We're working through it. One thing I like to remember here is that as my children age, even now, they're going to need more than just me. Heaven forbid they don't want to talk to me about something. I can't understand why, but they may need other people. I don't have all the answers. I want to create this environment where they know, Ash, I can ask her about that. You know what, Uncle so-and-so, I can go to him. They've got other people in their circle that they feel safe with. So to me, it's a big focus of creating safety. And that just helps me be okay sometimes with stepping back.
I think that's such a gift to give to your children, because it can be easy to think that, well, I'm their parent, they should come to me for everything. But we know from our relationships with our own parents that, sure, there's a lot of stuff you can go to your parent with, but then there's a lot that you probably would rather have a slightly removed or different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same as like, I don't have the answers for all of that. And that's okay. That doesn't make me less of a mother, a bad mother. But it's like, I'm going to just think of something simple that's not even emotionally. If my child wants to ask me about Excel spreadsheets, they've got the wrong girl.
Yeah.
I need to create this environment where they're supported in so many different areas. And I think, look, I want to acknowledge that it's not always easy. I haven't struggled as much as I know a lot of friends have with this separation. Dropping a child off at daycare, kicking and screaming. It's really hard to remember that it's like, I'm developing my community. But it is coming back to that idea. It's like, my child knows that I'm coming back. They are learning that this is, I am here. I'm not abandoning them. It might feel like it in the moment, but I will be back.
I love that idea of community. And it's not like my hairdresser is also going to be the person that does my taxes, right? Like we all have, we try and surround ourselves with people that are able to work to their strengths and their areas of expertise. So gifting that to our child, I think that's a really fresh perspective.
It's the most beautiful way to put it. And I think simple. Yeah, beautiful.
For some people, I know that they have always wanted to be a parent. And when they become a parent, their child is their number one priority in the world. Beautiful if that's the case. It's not the case for everyone. And some people still have these big ambitions for career and growth and things outside of parenthood. Neither is right or wrong, but how do we hold space for the multiple versions of ourselves?
Yeah, it's really, really hard. I think for me, I struggled to conceive my children. So I went through a big fertility journey. I got my children. I was told I'm so lucky I've got two of them. And I was sitting there going like, yeah, what the hell am I going to do with two of them? But this idea is like, beautiful. Now we need to be really grateful. And I also was like, I want to go back to work.
Yeah.
It was really hard to admit that I was like, great, cool. I really want to do this thing for me. It's the idea here, Ash, and it's very much easier said than done, but it's like dropping the binary. It's like we don't have to have one or the other. It's hard. And I said before, I don't really subscribe to the idea that it's like we can have it all. But it's like we need to stop the expectation that it is one or the other. We need to make it more of a supportive environment.
Is there some research around how long we should ideally spend with our children before going back to work? Is there, I don't know if there's best practice, or is it just a case-by-case basis?
Look, there's some research that says early bonding is important. But again, I'm going to come back to that good enough sort of side of it. And it's not like, oh, good, that'll be it, good enough.
Yeah.
We can go back to work. It's more of this idea of quality. Okay, being able to show up and attune to your child is the most important thing. I think for so many of us, we are looking for an answer, for a guide.
Yeah.
And because we don't have that, there's no instruction manual that says, okay, cool, at 6 months, at 12 months, we shall be going back to work and that's okay. We then look externally. We're looking externally. Well, she went back to work at this point. They work in the government. They had 12 months off. They have this many times off, whatever it is. We don't know. It's really hard because we have to then figure it out for ourselves. In terms of the bonding for your child and creating that secure attachment, again, your child, one, they're so resilient, but it's also about secure attachment means being available, being attuned, coming back to them. It's not always about always being present. It's about returning and attunement. That's the key. It's hard. And, I mentioned this before. It can often have a concept of like, we're trying to return to work for different reasons. Amazing. I'm talking for me about wanting to go there for my identity and my passion. That's fantastic. Not everyone feels like that. A lot of grief can come with this. I don't want to leave my baby. I don't want to go back from mat leave, whatever that looks like, or paternal leave, whatever it is. There's grief that can come with that. There can be financial burdens as well. There's no right or wrong in terms of a rule, a hard and fast, but it has to be right for your family. So I think it feels like a bit of a cop-out of an answer, but I know that you know that that's the answer as well, that it's like, it's what works for you. And it's knowing and trusting that it's like when you are there for your child, the quality of that relationship is the most important thing.
Yeah. And I think it's nice to touch on that privilege, like for work to be optional for one parent is a privilege. Life is expensive, kids are expensive, and so many of us have to go back to work full-time, both parents, kids are in daycare. And I think it's beautiful for anyone listening that is in that situation to just be reminded, like you said, it's quality time over quantity. It doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It doesn't mean you're going to stuff up your children. And as long as we can apply some of these principles that we've discussed today, we can still give them a really beautiful, secure attachment, healthy, happy life.
100%. I think one of the big struggles, I've actually really struggled with it this week for whatever reason, I don't know, Mercury's in some space, is that it's like I've just had really, really big days. I've been getting home later, picking the kids up later. Obviously, it's darker. It's getting darker earlier, so it already feels like we're against the clock. I'm trying to get them in bed. We're dealing with all of this. And I'm a rusher. The time is never my strong point. So
you were here early today.
Well, yeah, I don't know what mess I left behind. Let me just say that. And now I'm like, oh, what a compliment. Thank you. To me, I then struggle because, and this is where the mum guilt comes in, and potentially it's not necessarily the difference between mum guilt and dad's here, but for me, my personality goes, I've got to do this, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this, let's get through it. And I need to remember in those moments about being able to stop and just be present. I've got about an hour when I get home before the kids are down, and I want to spend that time with them. Realistically, I can't leave all those jobs behind and just sit on the floor and do it with them. We've still got to do things. So what I've been trying to do is then carve it out. Can I then sit with them while they're eating their dinner, not on my phone, not watching TV, but just be with them? Or after bath and we've put their jammies on, let's find a book and read just that book. Again, it's quality. We don't need an hour there. That'd be ideal to have this time where I'm there and I'm grounded, I am this and I'm that. You come into my house at that time of night, that's not me. But if I can carve out those moments, that's what counts. And when I go to bed at night and try to think of it's like, what was lovely, like what was nice today? It's like that. Just that simple thing of, pulling faces or trying to understand what they're saying about their day. It's like that's the bit that says, mum's listening, mum's here, she cares.
Everything we've discussed today is beautiful in theory and easy-ish to soak up when I've had a good night's sleep before this. For anyone who is in the depths of parenting right now and just feeling like they're drowning in this feeling of guilt, what advice do you have for them?
I just also consensually want to wrap you up in a big hug and be like, it's okay. I think the big thing here for me is like, you're not failing. And again, like you said, Ash, it's so easy to say, but I want you to hear it. It's like, you are not failing. You've never done this before.
Yeah.
Even if you have other children, you have never parented in this exact situation, okay? It is hard. It is so hard. The idea that we make it harder for ourselves with this comparison, it's so painful. So you are doing the best that you know how to do. I would be asking you to check some of those expectations, to come back to what's important for you, to see if there's any ability to lower the bar. I think it's about speaking about it, but knowing that it's like, it's feeling hard because it is hard and you are doing the best that you can do.
Great advice. And I hope that felt like the beautiful warm hug that we wanted it to feel like for anyone listening that's in the depths. Tools, resources, helplines, where can people turn to if they're looking for more information on this?
There is so much, which again, double-edged sword, okay? So there's a couple of things. We're looking at self-compassion here, and I want to put this in the show notes. There's a couple of really beautiful self-compassion practices. Even just simply, Ash, is being able to step away. I always love to put my hand on my heart. Exhale. I probably shouldn't do it into the microphone, but it's like taking a really deep breath and saying like, I'm doing the best that I know how to do. Can it allow us to just come back and pause for a moment? Again, feeling simple, but it can be really important. Self-compassion is key here. And there is a couple of key things that I will drop in there in terms of books and whatnot. You know I'm going to say it. It's therapy. It's therapy to unpack what's at the core of this. Like I said, I'm juggling with my own, juggling with my own stuff at the moment of like this shame of where that comes in, where it's ingrained from. It's not as easy as just like cognitively challenging it. Sometimes we need to understand where those patterns have come from. The other thing here I think that's important is the peer support. Other mothers. Even when we're talking about juggling work, we so often have access to but don't use our peers. We might be working with a mum of, she might have teenage kids, older kids, whatnot. And I would urge you to turn to her and be like, what do you think? Like, how have you managed this? What would you do? What did you do different? What worked? What didn't work? Turning to those people around us for support. Remember to take things as a grain of salt. But I think that can be an important sort of tool to use as well. There's a couple of books that I like. One is The Mother Wound and one is Good Inside, which I'll link. These are beautiful sort of starting points to look at that guilt, trying to shift it. Curate your Instagram feed. Just
where
be
possible.
Mindful. Where
These
possible,
algorithms are strong.
Where possible, just make sure you are really conscious of what you're absorbing, I think is a big thing. One thing I think is simple that I would like people to take away, it's really hard to do any of this when we're not regulated. There's a couple of things that's really hard to regulate as a new parent. Sleep deprivation is one of them. hormones is the other. I like to remind others, remind in therapy, myself, we're just little babies. And babies need a couple of things. Have we been fed and watered? Are we warm enough? Are we comfortable? Do we need to be in a different environment or whatnot? Do we need a cuddle? Do we need comfort? And do we need rest, asleep? Those sort of things for me is like, let's come back to that and see if those needs are being met, okay? It's this idea of keeping those core needs met before we can do anything else. The other little thing here, and I know that you'll laugh at this or it's pretty true to me. My mum used to always say to me with my kids when they were young is like, if in doubt, put them in the bath. There's something about water that can calm a baby so quickly. And I'm pretty similar. Throw me in the bath. It's usually not that. Throw me in the shower. Let me splash water. And it allows me to regulate. It allows me then to have that moment of self-compassion, put my hand on my chest, remind myself that I'm doing good enough, and then come back and approach the situation differently.
Anna, thank you.
My
As
pleasure.
always, it's such a gift to have you here. And I think our listeners are going to come away, again, feeling very seen, very heard and loved.
I hope so. And you've actually just got me on one of the most important things that I forgot.
Oh,
Sorry.
add it.
Yeah, little bit of spice.
Little spice.
The other thing I think when I mentioned on therapy there, and I'm sorry, Ash, I can hear myself just talking so much. There is this foundation called the Gidget Foundation. We will link it in here. This is something that is only new for me. I did feel a bit of guilt here. I was like, I should have known this. I should have known this earlier, but I know it now. It is this foundation that aims to support parents both, in the preconception stages, prenatal, postnatal, with therapy and resources. I believe it's at free cost, telehealth, if not low, but there is so many resources available there for parents. It's also if you're struggling with things like loss of a baby, miscarriage, everything in between, this is a great place to start. I also think it might be a little bit less confronting because you can go online and do that. So to me, that was one of the key things I wanted to share, and I'm glad I didn't forget completely that we'll add in, because that is let's just start that as a foundation.
Yeah, and maybe rather than scrolling social media, we should be scrolling something like that that's a little more evidence-based or relevant. Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. Anna, thank you.
Thank you, Ash.